Hello, this is Math 18 Section 1.2 video. Today we're going to be looking at the addition of integers. So addition is the process of finding the total of two numbers. So basically when we're talking about addition, the numbers that are being added together are called addends, and the total is called the sum. So whenever you see the word sum, you know that means the operation of addition. So we're going to look first of all at how to add integers on a number line. And when you do this, you start at 0 and then you go to the first number using an arrow, and then at the tip of that first arrow you go back to the second number wherever that is, and that'll give you your answer. Now I don't want you to start drawing number lines to get all of your answers. This is just going to show you why the rules work the way they do. Sorry about that. So basically this is just going to show you, the number lines are going to show you why the rules work the way they do, but then we're going to memorize the rules so that you can just do these problems without having to write a number line. So let's look at this. So look at the number. The problem we have is 4 plus 2. Big surprise, the answer is 6. So what they did was you start at 0 and you go 4 places to the right because that's a positive 4, and you're adding on a positive 2, so you go 2 more places to the right and you get positive 6. Now, sorry about all these interruptions here. The second one, we have negative 4 plus 2. Okay, so we start and we go from 0. See where it started at 0, and we go to the left to negative 4. Now from there at negative 4, since we're adding 2, we have to go to the right, and so we go back to the right 2 places and we end up with the answer of negative 2. So here's what you need to see. Whenever you have two numbers with the same sign, you're going to add the numbers and keep the sign of the two numbers. Okay, and there's going to be shorter rules on the next slide that'll help you remember what to memorize. Now, the other rule to add numbers with different signs, you're going to have to subtract them. I know there's a lot of other words in here, but this is the main thing you need to see. Subtract them and then attach the sign of the larger number. Okay? All right. So, here we have some examples. We have negative 12 plus negative 26. The first thing you want to ask yourself, are the signs same or different? They're the same. So we go with the first rule. If they have the same sign, add and keep the sign. So we add 12 and 26, which is where we get 38, but we keep the negative sign, so that makes it a negative 38. So, first rule, if the signs are the same, add, keep the sign. Look at the second example. We have negative 19 plus 8. Now the second line is kind of confusing. A lot of times we're just going to leave this out. In fact, we're going to go right down to the last step eventually because that's what we want to do. What you need to see is the signs are different, a negative and a positive. So with different signs, you're going to subtract, okay? And then keep the sign of the bigger number. So we have 19 minus 8. That's what we're doing. We get 11. Now when you go back and look at the signs to check to see which sign, which number has the largest sign, don't worry about the sign. In other words, don't think about negative 19. Just think about 19 versus 8. Which one's bigger? 19. So we keep the sign that's on the 19. And that's why the answer ends up being negative. Okay? So when the signs are different, subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number. So 19 is bigger than 8. That's why you keep that negative on your final answer. Okay? Alright, so here's some rules, and what I would recommend that you do is get some 3x5 cards or some type of index card and write these rules on the index cards and quiz yourself. Use them as flashcards. You can't use them on the test, but you can definitely use them to help you memorize these rules. So if you have the same signs, what you want to remember is add and keep the same sign. Okay? If this, and look at the example. Negative 3 plus negative 7, the signs are the same. So we add, keep the same sign, negative 10. Different signs, if you have a negative and a positive or a positive and a negative, the rule is you're going to subtract and keep the sign of the larger number. That's the main thing there. Okay? So negative 14 plus 10, two different signs. So we're going to subtract 14 minus 10. That's where I get the 4. Now, which one's bigger, 14 or 10? The 14, so I keep the negative on my answer, negative 4. Okay, so you should be talking to yourself daily, remembering these rules, saying them out loud, writing them down, any way that you can to get them memorized and stuck in your head to where you don't even have to think about it. You just go, oh, same signs, answer. Okay, so you really need to memorize these two rules. These are so important for the rest of the semester. Okay, so let's look at some examples. We have -6 plus -9. The signs are the same, so I'm going to add and keep the sign, which would give me -15. Okay? Now, number 2, we have -27 plus -42 plus -15. The signs are all negative, so I can add all of them. Now, if you're like me, I can't add sideways. I need to do them on top of each other. So we have 9, I'm going to add 27 and 42, and that would be 6, and that still says -69. And now we also need to add the -15 to that. So that gives me 14, carry a 1, and we get -84. So our final answer there is -84. So if you're using a calculator to help you with some of this computation, that's fine. But what you should do, in other words, if I was going to do this on my calculator, I would not try and put signs in, because you don't want to have the calculator do the signs for you. You want to know your sign rules. I would just do 27 plus 42 plus 15 on my calculator, get 484, and then I know it's got to be a negative because I know my sign rules. So just let the calculator do the calculating part for you, the computation. All right, look at number 3. -52 plus -39. Their signs are the same, so we're going to add them. So when we add those up, you get 11, carry the 1, you get -91. Okay, so there's your answer there. Number 4, we have -18 plus 18. Well, the signs are different, so the rule is you have to subtract. Well, 18 minus 18 is 0. So basically, anytime you have a negative and a positive of the same number, a number plus its opposite, the answer is always 0. Number 5, we have -3 plus 5. So here the signs are different, so I have to subtract. So 5 minus 3 is going to give me 2, and the 5 is bigger than the 3, so I keep it as a +2. Okay? All right, let's look at number 6. So here we've got 3 different numbers. 2 of them are negative, and only 1 is positive. So I think the easier thing to do is to combine the 2 negatives first. So bring down 37 and your plus sign. Now, the 2 negatives, the rule is add and keep the sign. So we're going to add those, and that's going to be what? -39. Okay? So now we have 37 plus -39. The signs are different, so now we have to subtract and keep the bigger sign, which is on the 39. So that's going to give me -2. So a lot of times if you have a whole, line of numbers, the best thing to do first is combine your like signs first. Okay? So that's going to help you a lot when you're doing these problems. So combine the like signs first, and then you only have to subtract one time. Makes it a little bit easier. Alright, so pause the video, try these, and then you can check yourself in just a minute. Okay, so let's look at the U tries. Number 1, we want to add, well, technically, are you going to add there? Not really. -6 and a +24, the signs are different, so we're going to subtract. The 24 is bigger, which means we're going to get a +18. Number 2, -3 plus -8. The signs are both negative, so we're going to add and keep the sign, which would be -11. Okay, number 3, 15 plus -6. The signs are different, so I have to subtract, and that would give me a +9 because I kept the sign of the 15. Subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number. Okay. Now look at number 4. We've got 3 different numbers here, okay? What I would do is do the 2 negatives first because I want to add the ones with the same signs, okay? So negative 13 plus negative 7 is going to give me negative 20 because I add and keep the sign. Now bring down the 2. Negative 20 plus 2 is going to be negative 18 because there what I have to do is I have to subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number because the numbers were different, the signs were different. Okay? Look at number 5. Negative 8 plus 8. We saw one like this earlier. If any number plus its opposite is always going to be 0. Okay? And number 6. Let's see what everybody got here. I would look at the 2 positives, 4 and 10, and then I want to do the 2 negatives together. Okay? So 4 plus 10 is going to be 14. Okay? And then I want to add the 2 negatives. Negative 2 plus negative 9 is going to be negative 11 because you add and keep the signs. So on both of those we had to add because the signs were the same. Now look at what we have left. 14 plus negative 11, the signs are different, so I have to subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. Well, 14 is the bigger number, so we know it's going to be a positive answer, and 14 minus 11 gives me 3, positive 3. All right, so if you're not chanting this to yourself by now, you need to. The signs are the same, add, keep the sign. If the signs are different, subtract, keep the sign of the larger number. All right, so now we're going to look at translating some expressions into a mathematical problem. So look at number 1. Find 11 more than negative 23. So most of these words we're dealing with addition in this section. We're going to be dealing with addition. More than is an addition word, okay, or phrase. So if we want 11 more than negative 23, technically what you're starting with is the negative 23, and we want 11 more than that. So we're adding 11 to it. So the order kind of flips there, okay? So you have to be careful when you're writing that out. Now most of the time in your homework or in assignments like that, you won't have to, they won't want to see the translation, they just want the final answer. But it's better if you get used to putting that 11 at the right hand side. So now it says we have negative 23 plus 11. The signs are different, so subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number. So that's going to be a negative because the 23 is bigger, and that would be negative 12 because we subtract there. Okay? Number 2 says, what is 4 more than negative 8? So it's just like the one above. Okay? We want 4 more than negative 8, so it's got to flip way back here. We're going to start with negative 8, and we want 4 more than that, so we're going to add 4. Now, negative 8 plus 4, the signs are different. Subtract, keep the sign of the bigger number. So that's going to be negative 4. All right, number 3. What is negative 8 added to negative 21? So almost all of these are kind of flipping here. If we want negative 8 added to negative 21, the negative 21 has to go first. And we're going to add negative 8 to that. Okay, so that's what you're going to do there. Negative 21 plus negative 8. Okay, the signs now are the same, so we're going to add and keep the sign, which would give you negative 29. And number 4, find negative 8 increased by 7. Well, for once we have one that goes right in order. Negative 8 increased by 7 can just be translated to negative 8 plus 7. Okay? So now, look at this. Are the signs same or different? They're different. So we subtract. 8 minus 7 would be 1, but it's going to be a negative because the 8 is bigger than the 7. So it's going to be a negative 1. Okay? Also, with the negatives and positives like this, especially with addition right here, if you think about money, it makes people understand it a lot better. Like if you know you owe somebody $8, but you give them $7, then you still owe them $1. So you're still negative 1 on the money there. All right, so look at these phrases below. All of these indicate addition. It says added to. So we've already looked at one like this. Negative 6 added to 9 would be 9 plus negative 6, so you have to subtract there and you get positive 3. Also, another word, more than, we looked at that already also. Whenever you have more than, it's going to flip, the order will flip there. 3 more than negative 8, so you start with negative 8 and add 3 to it, and you get negative 5. Now, the sum, actually the rest of these all stay in the same order. So these two at the top, the order flips, okay? But the other ones underneath, the order stays the same on those. Oops, made a big mess with that word. That's flips. Okay, so the sum of negative 2 and negative 8, you just add negative 2 plus negative 8. Add and keep the sign, you get negative 10. Negative 7 increased by 5, increased by just goes right in order. Okay, nothing new there. Negative 7 plus 5, you have to subtract, keep the bigger sign. The total of 4 and negative 9, so there you have to subtract, keep, well, first of all, you keep them in the same order, but then the 9 and the 4 are different signs, so subtract and keep the bigger sign of the bigger number. 6 plus negative 10, that goes right in order. 6 plus negative 10, exactly the way it says it. Now, notice that the second numbers are usually written in parentheses if they are a negative number. Don't let those parentheses bother you. You can either use them or you don't have to. The only reason they are there is to keep the plus sign separate from the parentheses. That's the only, separate from the negative sign. That's the only reason the parentheses are there. Okay, so stop your video and try these problems. Try and translate them and simplify them. Okay, so let's look at the U-tries. The sum of 89 and negative 11. So we're talking about a sum. This goes right in order. 89 plus negative 11. And you can either put the negative 11 in parentheses or not. It's up to you. So now it says and simplify. So 89 plus negative 11, the signs are different, so we have to subtract, keep the bigger sign, which is going to, the sign of the bigger number, which is going to be the 89. So we know it's going to be a positive 78. That would be it. All right, number 2, negative 5 added to negative 8. So this one, the order is going to flip, okay? So the order flips. So we're going to have negative 8 because we're going to add negative 5 to that. So the negative 5 has to go at the end. Now, the signs are the same, negative 8 and negative 5. The rule, add, keep the same sign. So that's going to be negative 13. Okay? Look at number 3. 6 more than negative 13. So once again, more than, that's going to flip. The order flips there. Okay? So if we want 6 more than negative 13, we have to start with negative 13 and have 6 more than the negative 13. Okay? So we have negative 13 plus 6. The signs now, look at the signs, are different. So we subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number. So when we subtract, we get 7, and the bigger number is 13, so it's going to be a negative 7 is your answer. And the last one, find negative 5 increased by 20. This is just going to go right in order. Negative 5 increased by 20. Okay, so there, now let's look at the signs. Negative and a positive. The rule is subtract, keep the bigger sign, so you're going to get positive 15. And I'm pretty sure that's it for this video. Yep, that's it.